So I'm going to talk to you about what I like to think of as the grammar of belief. I got interested in this back in the mid-80s. I was driven mostly by an interest in global warfare that was ideologically motivated, and also atrocity. Warfare was not so difficult to understand in some sense because you can map it onto animal territoriality. But atrocity in the service of ideology is a whole different thing. It's certainly clear that, for example, in World War II, when the Nazis had to make a choice, perhaps, between winning the war and accelerating the rate at which they were killing Jews, they chose the latter. And it's very difficult to understand that using a model based on animal territoriality. I started reading about belief systems widely in political writings and economic writings and religious writings and psychological writings, anywhere I could find a thread that I thought was promising. I read a lot of Jung, I read a lot of Freud, almost all the great clinical psychologists, a lot of Solzhenitsyn, a lot of George Orwell. They're all people, a lot of Dostoevsky and Nietzsche. They're all people who, as far as I could tell, had something very original to say. And out of that, I learned to understand why people need belief, why it's actually inevitable, why faith is inevitable. Faith is inevitable in part because your knowledge is finite, and so you have to take some things for granted or you fall into an infinite regress. And what maybe constituted the difference between pathological belief and non-pathological belief. And those are terms, by the way, which I think can be defined technically, which is a statement that runs contrary to the presuppositions, say, of moral relativism. I'm definitely not a moral relativist. I think it constitutes I think the motivation for moral relativism fundamentally is the desire to abdicate responsibility. Even though you can make very strong intellectual cases for why moral relativism is correct. The intellectual case and the actual motivation have nothing to do with one another, however.